Welcome back to another episode of Pushing Back Chaos with me, Paul McFadden. I hope you guys are all well out there. We really appreciate you stopping by and spending your precious time with us. Mike, how are you going, buddy?
Melon, it's good to see you, brother. Great catching up before we hit the record button. Lots to talk about today.
Sure
And
is.
man, it's just looks like a beautiful day there in Australia. It's a nice background you got there.
It, it is, yeah. I've just come out and sat on the back deck here at our place in Melbourne, and it's like we're sort of deep in autumn, but we've just got this beautiful day today, and I thought I can't let this pass. I'm not going to sit inside today. My daughter just came out and said, "Oh wow, Dad, it's really zen out here," which it
Yeah,
kind of
it's,
is. Yeah.
hey, change of scenery is good. Uh, I myself am in a change of scenery, so I know it's been over a month now or so since we've done our last episode, but lots has happened, and one of the big things for me is just finished moving into a new house, and
Boom,
yeah, dude.
boom.
It's been a hell of a ride the last couple of weeks, but yeah, moved in. My girlfriend and I got our own place and starting this chapter, and it's just been absolutely amazing how we even found the place, how we end up getting the place, and then just the process moving and coming together. It's just, I'm so grateful, man. But it's been a lot waking up with work going on, getting up at like 7 till about 2, moving, packing, and then taking about an hour break, and then going into work at 3, and then getting off around midnight for doing night stuff with work. It's been a lot, and I'm pretty sure I lost some more hair, but it's worth it because this place is great, super nice, and just very, very blessed, man. So change of scenery for the both of us.
Oh, it's so exciting. Jerry and I have also been super busy. We've had an investment property we've been building for a while. I've mentioned previously in other episodes, and it's just been like a long road and a lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of money been flowing out into this thing, and it's just about done. We went up and visited the property and saw it's one of my old army mates from a million years ago when I was 17. Who's the builder, and it's one of those relationships. It's just like this thing definitely is built on that relationship, which is now, wow, 31-year relationship. So we never would have got it done, I know, without it. There's just been so many challenges along the way, and those long, deep friendships that underpin stuff. It's an amazing thing to have these old friends and see each other. And I was there the night he met his wife, and I was at his wedding, and he was at our wedding. And anyway, it's been busy, is what I'm trying to say, which is one of the reasons we haven't had much of a chance to get together. But lots going on, and we thought we'd get together today and have an episode focused on the power of stillness, finding presence in the noise, which is something we've had a lot of noise. I've had a lot of noise. I know you have, and a lot of the times when you're going to make progress is when you're able to find that calm spot, that calm center when everything is swirling. But how has this been showing up for you in these last couple of weeks, Mike? It's obviously been huge amounts of change, huge amounts going on at work, huge amounts going on in your personal life.
Yeah, and really, I'm gonna say it all came together in like a whirlwind, but it's not by accident. It's actually a combination of a lot of personal choices that I've chosen to do, and sometimes the schedule just gets so packed, and I won't say that it's all negative because all of these things that I'm balancing and trying to accomplish are all positive. Like they're all about personal growth or bringing in resources or going to work or working and contributing to my relationship, contributing to myself, and just for me, like I said, I've been moving and doing that and then going to work for another, 10 to 12 hours a day and coming home and then I'm teaching a men's group. I'm part of two other men's groups throughout the week that I'm doing mentorship and also learning with, and trying to do that, and then balancing the personal life of like my girlfriend and I, working on our place and putting things together. I went through Allen Key Hell Week, Melon. I don't know if like I've never built more chairs and tables and random things with Allen keys. I swear I have about 27 of these suckers, and I got
Yeah.
carpal tunnel in my wrist and hand now from Allen keys. But it's just been a lot, man. And
Yeah.
um, but it's nothing new because both you and I professionally have dealt with a lot of high stress, high expectations, high pressure moments or periods where we're almost forced to find the calm. We're forced to find the
Yes.
space to focus because otherwise we're just going to unravel into crazy emotion and frustration and we're going to fail. So,
100%.
a couple of these, man, that's just a few that have shown up over the last few weeks personally. But, maybe we can jump into some examples about like, our professional background, some key things that we've learned along the way, some structures, some processes, and then talk about maybe how we can bring those over to our personal lives and what that looks like. Because I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel here. We've spent a lot of time doing a lot of professional things. Uh, you just got to reword them. You got to use different tools, and but the process for the most part is the same. And I think a lot of people in general, especially military people, they don't process it the right way because it's a different environment. Going
Yes.
through the door on a target is totally different to going through the door at your house, and instead of a bad guy, you see your
Right.
wife.
Right. Right. But there's something in both of them about being able to find stillness when things are difficult. And certainly that's the case in military aviation. There's a classic saying, it's pretty much the first thing you're taught when emergencies happen, that there's, I don't know if you guys use this, the sentence is sit on your hands. And it's literally to prevent you from starting to operate switches and make inputs before you've had that chance to just process what's happened. And so this is one of the very first things junior aviators are taught in the midst of the initial boom, something's happened, that you don't go straight into reaction. And this philosophy of sit on your hands it underpins all military aviation training. That there's going to be a point in your career when you can process information much more quickly, and the reaction time can get accelerated. But in the moment of an engine failing or in a moment of a combat action, there's often a rush to act before you've had time to process. So this stillness, finding presence in the noise, is like a key part of teaching students to fly and operate aircraft safely. And I also use it in family situations, Mike. There's in the heat of the argument, with in a marriage or in any relationship, in the middle of the argument, if you can find just a moment of stillness and a moment of calmness, that can often be the circuit breaker that you need to just unravel that knot. There might be some familiar argument that's occurring or stuff from the past has been dug up. And in both those cases, I think that there's massive benefit in being able to find the stillness, being able to find the calmness when things are starting to get away from you. And it totally ties into what we're all about here on Pushing Back Chaos, that I think stillness is a real antidote to chaos. And I've got a great quote from one of the thought leaders I really respect, Eckhart Tolle. And his quote is, "Stillness is where creativity and solutions to problems are found." Stillness is where creativity and solutions to problems are found. Yeah. So there's lots to unpack. I think this is going to be a great chat, man.
Yeah, I like that. Sit on your hands. Sometimes I've heard a similar one, not so polite, but it's more like, hey, just put some duct tape over your mouth. You know, like like stop talking, you're ruining it, everything. And I really like that though because I think especially as men, we're very reactive and we can get
100%.
very physical. And one thing we've talked about is where does the physical come from? Well, it's usually more like a mental or spiritual thing, which comes into your mind, which evokes emotion. The emotion evokes a physical reaction, right? Whatever you intake processes, and then there's an external result from that. And what you're saying is, hey, when I force myself to sit on my hands, and I could see this as a metaphor as well for personally, like obviously in a plane, I don't want to flip the wrong switch and, I
Mm,
don't know what all those buttons do. I'm just a ground pounder, but I don't want to eject or cut off my fuel or like do something stupid.
yeah.
And it could be catastrophic. So literally forcing myself to sit still and be patient and process is sitting on my hands. And then when I'm ready and confident to know what to do, I bring my hands up slowly and go through my procedures. That makes sense. And I think about that in my personal life when, maybe we're having an argument or there's a disagreement or something,
Mm,
and I'm in a rush to say something that I know is right, that I think is right. That's the only way this could ever be right. And instead, I want to listen to understand and not just listen to respond. And I could see where you're putting it in is like, hey, sit on your hands and be patient and think about
mm,
what you want to do here and say the right thing in the right way that she deserves.
mm,
This isn't just some student that you're teaching. This isn't somebody that you just met. Like, this is your partner. This is your relationship. This is way deeper than somebody you just met. So, really hit the mark in how you want to do that. And I like that because I can physically, I can mentally see myself sitting in the dining room having an argument, and I just plop down on my hands, but I know what
yeah.
it means, and I'm like, "Don't say anything, dummy. Don't ruin it."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
So, so an example for me, a couple of them. I was flying the aircraft I flew operation was a maritime patrol aircraft, P3 Orion. We're in the South China Sea, operating out of Malaysia on an exercise with our allies in that region. And I'm sure you can all imagine who those allies would be. And we were tracking a submarine at night time in the South China Sea with oil rigs around and helicopters, like civilian helicopters flying around, plus all the military stuff that was happening. And we had one of the engines shut down. In a P3 at low level, you burn less fuel with three engines running than you do with four because you're sort of staying in the one area. But if you're going to go somewhere, you have all four running. So we've got number one engine, which is the first one on the left, shut down, and we got a filter caption pop on one of the other engines, meaning that a fuel filter has been blocked by something, and the fuel is now bypassing the filter and going to the engine still. And it's nighttime. We're low level. We're down at 300 feet over the water in pitch black, flying around, and you're thinking to yourself, "I wonder what this means." And that instinct to like rush into a checklist and get something underway is exactly the wrong one. So we started a climb out. We restarted number one. And while we're looking at this, we had a fuel filter light pop on another engine, a separate engine. So we've now got four engines running. We're climbing in the dark. We've got fuel filter lights on two different engines, which immediately the worst case would be that all the fuel in the aircraft is contaminated with something, and and we're going to potentially have fuel starvation, maybe multiple engines shut down. So that is the kind of chaos where rushing to action and not having the moment of stillness could really have you rapidly make terrible decisions. Another example in my personal life of times of chaos was when my daughter Annie was born at 23 weeks, and we're in the uh, neonatal intensive care unit with her, with all the other super prem babies, and just the chaos and mayhem that occurs in there. And, it's a sad statistic that a lot of the babies in there actually do pass away. And you see this happen around you, and you can't help but feel very close with the other parents and the other families having these same experiences, and coming in and seeing, an empty neonatal unit next to your own baby when there was another baby there the day before and a family, and that kind of chaos that can cause an immediate crash in emotional state. You can get into reactivity straight away, and super easy to lose your focus and the ability to process what's happening with your own child. Because it's like, just because that's happened, it doesn't mean that everything is going to be calm for your baby. There's always things that are going wrong in the neonatal unit. It's just constant. It is actually just a constant series of crises that occur the whole time you're there until you get well enough to process and leave. And so that distraction, that emotional distraction, can really cause you to lose your focus, and you might miss something critical that's occurring with your own baby. So that's a second example, just my personal life, of times when the chaos is peaking and the noise is peaking, and trying to find that stillness and that ability to sit on your hands and really reprocess what is the most important thing I need to do right now is really key.
Man, and I just want to say, like, that's I've known you 5 years, and that's just still next level to me. Like, I don't understand that, but you're talking about this about looking over your daughter in the neonatal unit and
Mm.
finding space and the event that, like, you can't control her life and what's about to happen to it. I know people that get bent out of shape because the light doesn't turn green fast enough. You
And
know what I mean?
that happens too, though. That happens to everyone as well.
Right, right. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, you're given an amazing example, and you're saying that you've done this and this works in that environment. So if it
Yeah.
can work in that environment, I mean, why can't you use it literally anywhere?
Yeah, that's right. And look, I'm sure that there are times where you've done exactly the same thing in training or in operations. I'm sure there's times when you've done it in your personal life, in interactions with, intimate partners and so on. And all of us, as Stephen R. Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, is another amazing author that I love. He's got a real thing about, we all know about Pavlov's dog with a stimulus and the response. Stimulus and response. They ring the bell, they feed the dog. They ring the bell, they feed the dog, and eventually they ring the bell, and the dog will salivate just from the bell.
Hmm.
And this is like a bit, it's sort of old psychological theory that most people understand, this stimulus response. Stephen Covey talks about that all of us can fall into just being reactionary to stimulus. That an input happens in our life and then an automatic output happens. The guy cuts us off in traffic and we, you know, curse them out, or we just get into a negative state, or you have that's I don't know, you leave your dirty washing on the ground, and there's an immediate argument inside the relationship.
Yes.
So the stimulus response is like the only thing that separates us from animals is the stillness and this awareness of the gap between the stimulus and the response. And that when you can pause in that moment and focus, that's when you start to have multiple options become apparent to you, multiple responses become apparent. And he's like, this is the definition of humanity. Being human is the ability to choose your response rather than being an animal where the response just occurs naturally. And so, like, I would contend that this is the power of stillness. This is what we're talking about in this episode, is that awareness of being in the moment and being able to just take that second, sit on your hands, take a breath and focus. And just that action, I'm certain, and I know it has happened for me in my life, you start to have a spread of actions that you can choose from, you can select from with a bit of intention. And all the time I've ever done that, it's always been a superior choice rather than the automatic response that was going to happen.
Yeah, isn't it funny how when we usually do the automatic response, things go bad, but when we try we choose, like you're talking about being intentionally choose the harder thing, which is to be calm in chaos, things actually get better.
Yes.
You know, doing the
Yeah.
hard isn't necessarily the easy way, but it's the right way.
Yeah, that's right. And you can get better at this just by practicing it. Like we talk a lot, we've talked before about our identity, action, outcome. That people want to focus on the outcome, but that's the thing you can't choose. And we've spoken about this quite a lot. And the thing you can control is your identity. Like, who are you? Who are you in that moment? What aspect of identity is important, and how can you manifest it? That's then going to lead to the action that's appropriate, and then the outcome, that hopefully will follow. But we try to operate the other way and it never works.
Yeah.
So you can have your identity in these times of chaos rather than, you know, I'm the hard charger, I'm the alpha, I get it done. You can be, I'm the one who brings calmness.
Yeah.
I'm the one who brings stillness when others panic. This can be the identity that you want to manifest in these times of chaos. I'm the one who looks for alternate pathways. These are the things we talk about when we're talking about this framework that we use, Mike and I, quite a lot, this identity, action, outcome. This bit of identity in the moment of the chaos, in the moment of the trigger, in the moment of the fear, can be the time to manifest some element of new identity that is then going to drive ongoing. Like I know that when I've been operating from that identity of being calm under pressure, I am someone who is calm under pressure. That as a chosen identity that I manifest has led to far superior outcomes for me rather than when I have no awareness and I'm in my, like a previous sort of inherited identity or just an automatic state. That intentionality in both of these areas, intentionality about identity, fly over, intentionality about your identity, and then an awareness of the stillness, being able to bring it, has driven hugely improved outcomes for me in both times of medical need with family, in aviation incidents, and also, inside my marriage.
I love it. There was the quote we brought up before we hit the thing, but it was from a former Alabama football college here in the U.S. He said, the outcome is the distraction. You're so worried about the end of it, right? But it's really, it doesn't matter. If you're not focused in the game of, gridiron American football, you're not focused on the exact play, on the execution, your position, what your responsibilities are, your self-awareness, the awareness around you, what's going on in the environment, like every little detail, you could forget about winning the game. You're worried about winning the game, but you're not
So
even
good.
lining up right or, covering down what
Yes.
you're supposed to do. So, that perfectly applies to the other side. It's just like, I want to be a really good partner. I want to be a really good boyfriend. I want to be a really good husband. Well, great, but you're totally missing the point right in front of you of you're not being great in this moment.
Mm.
And it's very applicable, man. I like how you
Yeah, yeah,
outlined it
yeah.
there.
So that could be like in that neonatal situation of like the outcome being I want to take my daughter home or I want to go home with a healthy baby. And that can totally take you out of this present moment. Like having that, can you just say the quote and the name of the coach again for us there, Mike? Because I reckon this is a key point for people that
Hmm.
getting too far ahead and on the part that you can't control takes us out of this present moment and we lose all of our power. So I'd love to hear the quote again and the name of the coach.
Yeah, his name was Nick Saban. He was the college for Alabama, and he's multinational champion coach. And yeah, he just said the outcome is the distraction, right? Couple words, but very, very true. When you break it down, it's exactly what we're talking about. You can't be great if you're not great in the moment. You can't be
Yes.
compassionate if you're not compassionate in the moment. You can't be a lover if you're not loving in the moment. You can't be patient if you're not patient in the moment, you know, and it's just a very good message.
And there's so much in that because in an aircraft, say you have an engine failure, an engine issue, like I was talking about there in the South China Sea, and if you're thinking too much about landing the plane and getting home, from leaving the plane, and you're not in the moment, you're going to miss detail. You're going to miss what's happening with these fuel filter lights. How are we going with getting number one engine back online? Where is the nearest airfield? How high are we? Where are those oil rigs? Where are those helicopters? What's going on with the military aircraft around us? That getting too far ahead is like getting away from step one and step two. Like there's always 100 steps when you're flying. They're always coming at you sort of like a conveyor belt. And I always teach my students, like execute step one and know step two, and don't get any further ahead than that. That is you're going to lose your focus. And I feel like this is a similar thing here, a similar idea of if you're getting into the outcome state and you're focusing on that, you're definitely not focusing on the present moment. You're not going to be executing step one.
Right.
I love it. The outcome is a distraction. 100% tie in.
Um, I'll share a couple with me and I'll kind of do a little visualization here. Now, if you're listening to this driving a car, please don't close your eyes. But for the people that are just, you're hanging out or whatever, take like the next minute or so, and I just want you to try to picture this this scenario. So I'm going to relate to work as far as doing CQB, close quarters battle or room clearance. Okay. It's nighttime, it's pitch black. You have a bunch of equipment on you, you have night vision on. You're about to make entry into a building with known terrorists with barricaded shooters. They have weapons, and very well aware that you may show up. And you're just getting ready to turn the doorknob. And your objective is to enter this room with your team confidently, quietly, come into the room and deal with any threat that pops into there. All right. There's multiple threats. There could be people with no guns. There could be people with guns. There could be people that you don't know if they have a gun. There could be children. There could be women. There could be barricades in front of you, open doors, open windows, uncleared spaces, closed doors, open doors, you name it. You could walk into anything. And just think about how stressed you would be before you turn that doorknob. Now, making entry into the room, you carry weapons because if you're required to take it down an enemy that has a weapon, he's a threat. Your objective is to engage him as fast as possible and eliminate the threat to protect your teammates, yourself, or that person just may be the mission. All right. So really think about putting yourself on that door right before you turn the handle and you go in. As soon as you make entry, you go in down your wall and you scan and you see a person right there in front of you. You lock eyes. They're raising their AK-47 and you're looking and you're going, yep, I'm supposed to kill them. I know I'm getting pretty intense here, but this is what it's like. My rifle has to come up and I have to engage that person square in the face. I'm aiming right for his nose and I'm going to put rounds in them as fast as possible and make sure that they're completely down and that there's no more threat. You would think that I need to go as fast as possible, like everything in my being to get there, and I'm going to win that fight. Most of the time, and we train this way, most of the time you're going to miss your shot.
Mm.
You're missing so much by trying to go too fast, and you're missing the key points along the way. So, one of the sayings that we have in the military, not just us, but in the military, is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Okay. Now, let me break that scenario down just a little bit more. I turn that handle. I make entry. My eyes are the first thing looking into space and start identifying whatever I see, processing. As I'm stepping into the door, my feet have to enter the doorway perfectly, or I'm going to trip up and mess up everything. Proper spacing off the wall. How far down the wall I'm going, depending on how many guys I have and what my position is going in. Bringing my rifle up at the right time, so as soon as I can break, I can present to the corner, engage anything that's there or scan, and then go back out into the room and do the same. Once I see that guy and I'm like, that's a threat, there's multiple things that have to happen to make that shot, right? I'm probably either at high or low ready, depending on what I'm doing. As I'm coming up, my eyes never leave the target. My rifle is coming to my eye, not my eye to the rifle. It's rolling up on the buttstock to my touch point that I can feel on my kit. It's coming up. The buttstock is touching my cheek, right where I want it, which gives me my eye relief to my optic. And as I come up, my safety's coming off before it even levels out at the shot. And then as soon as it comes up to the level, I'm getting that front sight picture, making sure it's acceptable. And that round is getting squeezed off within a millisecond. And I'm sending that round, right? All of that's happening in less than a second. And yes, that may seem so fast, but it's so slow because I literally just talk through every single motion and point that I had to go through in order to make the perfect shot where I wanted right through his nose, which is going right through his brain, and I'm eliminating that threat. Okay. Right after that, you know, you continue through. That's just one. Then you may have multiple more threats or targets or different things that you got to deal with in that room, and you're resetting and it's going faster and faster and faster. That's chaos. That is quiet chaos and pitch black with guns, and there's people losing life in the room with you. If anything, and then we talked about it, is calm breeds calm.
Mm.
If I am not calm in my process, if I start yelling and screaming and just going wild and start slinging lead and not aiming or just doing anything, I am adding to the room. I'm adding to the chaos. I'm adding to the problems. And everybody reads off me and everything gets amplified. And that very rarely turns out good. So that's just one scenario I want to talk about, for the military. This is a process that everybody that's been in a high stress, Melon being a pilot, me being in special operations, and 100 others. How do I come home to this
Mm.
amazing house that I have? Now I want you to picture yourself coming home, putting the key in the door, and now your hand is on your doorknob to your house. And you know that, hey, your significant other's in there. Maybe just didn't have the best day. Probably looking at a fight or some type of confrontation because things have been building. And you have to enter that room and you have to assess and you have to read the room and you have to stay calm and you have to do the right thing the right way and not rush too fast because you're going to mess it up. How are you presenting yourself? How are you going into there? Do you have this kind of self-awareness, not just at work, but at home in your own house with your own wife or your own husband or kids? Finding that space and being present no matter where you are, whether you're in a work environment or at home. All of this stuff applies, man. It's not about just getting there, it's how you get there. And we've already
Mm.
mentioned that of like, stop worrying about the outcome. Like, you need to focus step by step by step and
Mm.
build upon it. And then later on, you will get that outcome. Hey, you are a calm person. You are a confident person. You can execute. You are worthy of this. You are a great partner. It's because you showed up in the key moments and had self awareness to perform and do things the right way, whether it's out of compassion, out of love, out of aggression, out of ferocity, whatever is required in that room. Are you showing up as that? Having the self awareness of where you're at. Maybe you have to bring yourself down. Maybe you got to bring yourself up. Maybe you
Mm.
need help. Maybe you need somebody next to you to help you. Maybe you need to ask for it, right? Establish it, but be honest. This is something that just recently, like I said, my girlfriend and I moving into this place, hey, that doesn't go in the room. That does, I don't like that there. This is mine. That's yours. We're going back and forth. And it's funny. It really is funny. We're nitpicking each other because we're here every single day doing stuff. But there's times where literally I'll walk up to her, I'll grab her hands and I'll look at her right in the eyes and I say, hey, no, 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 no. Let's bring it down. Remember why we're doing this. I know it's frustrating. I know we haven't slept. I know we still have to go to work later. I know it's frustrating. I know things aren't where they're supposed to be, but it's okay. I said we're here together, and then really, dude, she starts finishing my sentences, which is just the nicest thing. Like we just meet each other in a place of like respect and compassion. And
Yeah.
she'll call herself out before I do. She'll be like, you know what? She's like, I'm being a turd right now. And I'm like, so am I. And and we just, man, it just comes down because we both know, we love each other. We want this to work. We remembered everything and we're going, hey, we want to do this. This is a great step in life. We want to do this together. in the
Mm.
right way, not just move into here and just get there.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? We want to be compassionate and respectful of one another. Have fun while we're doing it. Find the humor, right? Take breaks, be present, share things. Because 10 years from now, we're going to look back and be like, you know what? That was actually a really nice thing. I remember when we
yeah.
moved in and we were very good with each other. We talked, we communicated, and we did have a great start. We have a great relationship. And it's like, there's your outcome, and we know that, but we have to be in the moment and do it the right way. So that's my example from work.
Love it.
Home.
Love it, man. It's
So
such an amazing thing to hear you describe what you do at work, Mike. And you know, I know I speak for all the listeners and that to say thank you for sharing that. That is an extraordinary thing to picture you clearing a room, doing some close quarter battle application. And I can hear you in that phrase I've heard you say 100 times. I heard it so many times. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, calm breeds calm. You can hear inside that you are applying this power of stillness that we're talking about. That stillness and calmness in the mind is the opposite of the chaos. It's the opposite of the swirl. And I love hearing about applying that coming home, hand reaching for the doorknob. I'm picturing those two, hand reaching for the door handle, going into a CQB, QCB, a CQB, or going into your own home. And that, there's parallels there, but the stillness is going to help get you into the state that you need to be in. And so
mhm.
there's a way we can apply the stillness as a rhythm in our day. There's a way we can apply, there's the box breathing techniques of the 4-7-8 of inhale for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. There's the little one Mike just said there, just that dropping into meta awareness. Where am I at? We use this a lot in military aviation, that try to get the self-awareness of where am I at on my stress performance curve. The one where it's a bell curve of when you're low stress, like super sleepy, you're sluggish, your performance is low. When you're super high stress, your performance, you're nervous, you're overstressed, your performance is low. But in the middle, there's a sweet spot where your stress is at the right level for the interaction. It's your peak, you're focused, you're calm, but you are, the heart rate's appropriate. You're probably elevated a bit above simple rest. And this is an aviation thing. I'm thinking about flying an aircraft, potentially in combat ops. In military aviation, there's a real focus on periodically just dropping into a meta awareness. Where am I at? How stressed am I? Am I overclocked? Am I overstressing? Am I too calm? Am I overconfident? Do I need to breathe a couple of slow, deep breaths of this box breathing? Do I need to G myself up and get my, a bit more adrenaline in so that I amp myself up? And this meta awareness is something you can bring into your rhythm. So it can be done periodically during the day. You have transitions between events. You can bring intentionality into stillness. I'm finishing a meeting with some staff and I'm going to flow into a flying mission next. I can just have a 2-minute pause, get myself clear before I then go into a prep cycle and the way that next mission is going to flow. You can have that pause, as Mike was just saying there at the front door before coming in. We can do stuff with our phones, these social envy devices that we all carry around with us. You can have that 10, 15 minutes in the morning, or you can isolate the phone for periods. You can have a couple of deep breaths during when you're sensing some conflict starting with a family member, a partner, someone at work. So this is like inside the day. And then there can be the micro moments like Mike was talking about in the Special Forces application of finding the stillness in the moment. And I've talked about in the aircraft of sitting on your hands. It can be the moment in an argument's about to start with a spouse where you just find the stillness in the moment. You can do it, while you're going to a coffee machine or getting yourself a drink of water. You can do it before you push send on your phone with some sort of a message that might end up with some repercussions. So having it built into your day and having an awareness that you can drop these little micro moments of stillness into whatever's in the day as it unfolds can have you build into your mind that spiritual reminder that stillness is always available and that some of the points Mike has talked about, and that I've talked about with application in our professional life. When the still point's available, you're able to access presence,
Mhm.
and presence enables precision. And that is something super important in both of our professional contexts. So the still point's available, stillness allows you to access presence, and presence enables precision.
Love it. Um, there is something I'd like to bring up another way. These are two very real examples from both Melon and I. But, if you can't relate to that, maybe your job is just different and you're like, well, I can't really relate what I do at work. We're not in that type of environment where we're trying to do that. And maybe you work from home and it's quiet all the time. And, I don't know. Maybe you have a unique situation, but you're trying to say, like, I want to be something in the long run and I want to achieve that or I want to be known as that. Uh, what we're talking about is going and finding the time and the space and the calmness to remember why you're doing it, right? To reestablish your why, who you're trying to be, why'd you even start this thing, kind of. And something that I'm doing with the men's group that I lead is over the last 3 months, we've been working and talk about an identity and kind of like their purpose and like all this stuff as a man. And from day one, it was totally different. But I asked them, I said, who do you guys want to be? And they're just like, I need to be a better husband. I need to be a better father. I need to be a better friend or, whatever. And I said, okay, well, we're going to take 3 months and we're going to work on it. We're going to get there. And they've grown so much. And our last thing, which is this Sunday, actually, is our last meeting, is I told them, I said, guys, what I want you to do is I want you to write out your pledge to yourself. Okay. Take the time, it's been 2 weeks. I said, write a pledge on a piece of paper or something, and maybe in your phone, accessible. And I want you to write who you wanted to be at the beginning of this thing. Take everything that we've talked about and discussed and learned, and I really want you to paint this image of who you really want to be for these people in your life and put it into this pledge and keep it accessible. So what we're going to do is I told him, I said, bring in your significant others, your family, your children, your best friends, and you're going to reintroduce yourself to them in our last meeting. And I'm going to do this as well. Like I'm going to bring my girlfriend there. I'm going to reintroduce myself because I've grown as well. And if you can't relate something from work in these examples that Mel and I just shared, maybe write a pledge to yourself, keep it in your wallet, in your pocket, in your purse, on your phone. And before you go into that stressful place, before you go home and open the door into maybe chaos with, a spouse and kids, pull out that pledge and read it and say, this is who I am. This is
Mm,
who I will be. This is what I dedicated myself to. I'm not allowing a bad day, emotion, something, fear, overtake me in this moment. I want to walk into this house and I want to be the mother, the father, whoever, the husband, the wife that I want to be for that person. And damn it, I'm going to do it. Right. And be intentional. And, one thing that I've done, man, and like we're talking about moving and all this stress is my girlfriend came up with this idea. She's like, you know what? Because I care for you, whenever we're arguing or we're nitpicking each other, she's like, I'm gonna say I have to go walk the dog. We don't have a dog. And I was like, you're gonna what? And she just kind of laughed and she's like, yeah, it just means I need like my time out to go find my calmness and settle for
yes.
5, 10 minutes. And she's like, I don't want to say anything off-putting, but it will be like our password to like what that means. And I because it's out of respect. And I said, okay, I like what you're on to here. And then I thought about it and I said, well, I don't want to say walk the dog for me. So for me, if you see me getting that way or I need to say it, my word is gonna be First Corinthians. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say, hey, First Corinthians. And what that does for me is I'm going to step away. I'm going to find my space. I'm going to find my calmness. And I'm literally going to read this because I have this on me all the time. And it says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And I'm like, that's who I want to be in this moment, damn it. And that's my reminder, that's my pledge. And I'm gonna walk back in that room with her. I hug her, I kiss her, tell her I love her, and man, the burning walls just cease to exist. And it's just every single time we do that, it's so nice.
That's pretty good. I just want to say, I just want to point out, no doubt, all the listeners are thinking the same thing, that you're punching well above your weight here.
Oh, I know that. I'm out kicking my coverage, punching above my weight class.
Yeah,
You name it, I'm doing it.
that's right. That's right. And I also just want to say, Cherry and I, we had our stuff in storage the whole time we were in the Middle East. So 14 years we had stuff in storage, and when we got home last year, Cherry unpacked and she found like an old cassette tape from our wedding video. This is how old we are. It was the old, the one uncle who's got the camera on his shoulder. That everyone had like one uncle who had the camera. Anyway, so he recorded it, and this tape, and no one has a tape player anymore, right? So about a month ago, Cherry got this burned on her USB, and we watched our wedding video for the first time in like 20 years. Anyway, I like 1 Corinthians was the reading at our wedding, just FYI, just as a tie-in. So I got to hear that whole reading done by one of my best mates from school just the other day. So that practice that Mike has just talked about there, that is a deliberate insertion of stillness into the day. That is when the chaos is swirling, when the noise is peaking, how do you find your presence? And so Mike and his girlfriend are both talking about techniques that they're going to activate when they are feeling that pull. They know that they're not in their center. They know that the spinning top is spinning up. Oh, I'm not in the middle. I'm gonna experience a lot of forces here. I need to go and find myself. And just the action of talking about it beforehand is like a huge asset and a huge boost, and something I would encourage people to do, that you can help. Like, conflict is relationship. Every relationship will have it, and you trying to prevent it totally is a fool's errand, because we're all human, and there's going to be bits of us that brush up against the others, and we're going to have to resolve things. And so if you can set up structures and rules for your how are you going to deal with these times of conflict, it is such an asset. And I'm just such a massive fan of you doing this so early on. Pardon me. So Mike is generating a deliberate way of getting a space between the stimulus and the response. And all of a sudden, you're not an animal. You're not an output machine that just prompts. And other areas where this can happen, right? Like a student pilot or a junior pilot makes an error. That initial response could be to beast them out. Child has a meltdown. The parent can be in, like, I need to assert control, punish, escalate. These are areas where inserting a stillness as a practice allows you to, like with a student pilot, having that ability to have that moment. You can turn a negative into a teaching moment straight away. There's always an opportunity to learn. You can get a clarifying question. You can get into a teaching moment rather than an opportunity to display power. With the child, there can be a sense of, I can feel my tension building up here, and you can be, what identity am I manifesting right now? Am I manifesting the idea, like in the aircraft, am I manifesting my identity as a mentor, or am I manifesting an automatic thing of being a controlling person? With the parent, am I manifesting an identity of wanting the best for this child over time, or am I in an automatic control assertion point? So there are ways that we can implement these in the moment, looking for that Stephen R. Covey stillness to find what are the other when I get my presence in, what responses can I choose, and how you can immediately transition from, like, I don't have to identify as an angry parent. I can be the safe space. That's my identity with my child. I'm not just a senior instructor. I can be a mentor. It can also be, I don't have to respond from old trauma. I can be
Mm.
who I am now.
Love
So in that moment, we can re-presence when we get our stillness. You can re-presence my identity as a chosen identity. Who do I want to manifest? And then the actions are going to immediately become apparent. I can select from these amazing actions, and the outcome is going to be very different when we do this. As Mike's saying there, conflict with his partner, if he's able to manifest 1 Corinthians, take a space, for sure he's going to come back and, there's still going to be things to get resolved, but it's going to be coming from a totally different identity. The actions are going to be totally different, and there's going to be definitely a different outcome.
Wizard. Melon the Wizard. That's all I gotta say. The way he words his stuff. I don't know if you people out there listen to him, like actually listen to him, man. He's amazing. Amazing. I love it.
Thanks, man. I know that we work well together. Like, no joke, I was sitting here listening to you describe the CQB stuff, and I was really trying to do the thing you were doing there, of picturing myself doing that. And I've not done anything like that ever in my life, and I got the sweats a little bit, and I just have massive respect for what you do, man. Like, no joke.
Well, let me just tell you, if I'm ever in an airplane and I got 4 engines and 2 of them are showing that the fuel light's on and the other lights, the first reaction that I'm gonna have is I'm changing my pants. All right. Because you do not, you or Raph, yeah,
Uh,
you guys could do that, man. But me up there, I'm trained to get the parachute and just jump out.
Really good.
Yeah.
So some of the other tools that Covey uses, and Covey's a guy that I just love. Like, I encourage everyone to read Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and the book that came out later, which is called The Eighth Habit. It was genuinely a life changer for me. I read the Seven Habits while I was going through my Air Force pilot application and the officer interviews and the whole screening process, and it just was such a boost for me. And over it, then read The Eighth Habit while I was on combat ops, and Stephen Covey is an amazing human being. He has a thing about, when we are present, there's 4 bits. So there's self-awareness. So these are practices you can use to access that, right? So self-awareness, what is happening at the moment? What thoughts and feelings and reactions are occurring from you right now? So that's self-awareness. The next step is your conscience. So what's your inner guidance telling you is right or wrong to do now? And I guarantee that the animal response is not going to be the right one. Imagination. So then, what could I do? Like, what future outcome can I work towards? And then manifesting your independent will. So you have the power to choose. So these 4 things are inside Covey when he's talking about this stillness and the gap between the stillness and response. So once again, self-awareness, conscience, imagination, and independent will. And I really feel like he has captured something here in the definition of what it is to be human. And I feel like these 4 elements are a really key part of what we're talking about here in this episode on the power of stillness, finding presence in the noise.
Yeah, those are key. I really like those a lot. Um, Melon kind of said it, but we're sharing a lot of knowledge here. There's a lot of knowledge that's been shared, and I listen to other podcasts and sit in groups and all kind of backgrounds and all kinds of stuff. Man, I hear a lot. I learn a lot, but what I find the hardest part to do is the wisdom part, which means
Mm,
how and when do I apply it?
yeah,
Um, I don't think a lot of people, this is my opinion, I don't think a lot of people use wisdom within their relationship as much as they do at work.
right.
Right. We're so tied in to work being our identity, and we put so much weight into it because, yes, it's what you do every day. It's what brings resources in, money, provide, things for your family or whatever. So, yes, I understand the weight. But how often are we taking the time to be intentional and learning and applying all of these things to our home life, to our relationship, to our children?
Mm,
Um, the day gets too busy. I had a long day. Work was tough. Now I just want to relax. I don't want to grow. I just want to come home and veg, sit on the couch, hand my kid a phone to distract him because I'm too tired. Once in a while is fine, but every day, maybe not. And just to finish up, I'm going to put out like this challenge here is really take a look at yourself, find out your friction points in your day, and really just be honest. Like, are you really taking the knowledge and applying using wisdom at work? And are you doing the same at home? What can you take from your work or professional life? And how can it transfer over, or vice versa? Maybe your home life, maybe you work at home and then you have to go and do other things at other places. How are those transferable so that it doesn't go away from your character, right?
Mm,
I should never have to be someone drastically different just because I go do another task, you know? Like please believe me when I describe the CQB version, I'm doing a job, but that's Mike doing that job. When I come home and come through the door and I see my girlfriend, that's Mike coming through the door. I'm just doing intentionally different things that I want and have to do.
mm,
I'm still the same. I never want to be different. And I hear people say that sometimes, man. Personally, I just don't agree with it. They're like, you need to be an absolute reckless monster at work. But then when you come home, you're just this super soft, like caring guy. Dude, you can still be a very strong-willed, tender man and do a lot of damage. Like,
yeah.
please trust me. I know a bunch, and I'm one of them.
Mm,
But that is possible. So
that's right.
I would just challenge you to assess yourself, be honest, and ask yourself what you're doing. And if you're not, then find these moments of pause, be intentional with them,
Mm,
redefine who you want to be, write it down, have some type of doctrine or thing that you want to fall back to, and then be intentional. And do it for a week, see how it goes. Tell me if you feel different. Write to us, message us. Hey, if we're completely wrong, call us out. Be like, hey, everything you guys said was BS and it didn't work. I'd be interested to hear and talk to you about it. Um,
yeah.
and
We'd
take a
also
little
we'd
bit.
also love to we'd also really love to hear examples of where you've been able to find the stillness in personal life, professional life, in high stress situations, how you've been able to apply principles like this. I'm sure lots of people out there in our amazing audience have had examples of this stuff. All right. Well, I think we're at the end here. So just a quick recap. We're talking about the power of stillness, finding presence in the noise. We talked about Stephen R. Covey and the gap between the stimulus and response. That the stillness there is where we find our humanity. There was a quote from Eckhart Tolle: "Stillness is where creativity and solutions to problems are found." I talked about the military aviation paradigm of sitting on your hands when the disaster strikes. Mike gave a great quote from Nick Saban, the Alabama University coach: "The outcome is the distraction." I talked about in the CQB, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, and calm breeds calm. And he gave that great example of being able to manifest that both in the CQB and when he comes home. I talked about building stillness into your rhythm, that the still point is always available. And when we are able to manifest that, the presence enables precision. Mike talked about carrying his pledge to himself and his 1 Corinthians quote, which amazingly enough was read at my wedding. And I tied out there with a bit of Stephen Covey's The Human Endowments of Self-Awareness, Conscience, Imagination, and Independent Will. Wow. So I hope with a couple of examples there from Mike and I at work, and also Mike and I in our personal life, him with his partner and me, and then with my daughter, we're able to see maybe there's ways that we can apply these things. And just a final thought: their stillness isn't where you stop the world; it's where you stop being run by it. And in the pause between the trigger and your next move, that's where the real you lives. So until next time, thanks for stopping by and take care.